In this episode, we have Matt Adams in the house. We also have Rafael Lopez. So we have two major leaguers talking shop in this episode. This is going to be all about the journey. And a lot of people, when you think about Matt Adams, you think about, holy cow, St. Louis Cardinal, clutch moments, unbelievable career with the Cardinals. And then you also think about the Atlanta Braves and how he had a great season with Atlanta as well. So we go down that aspect, but a lot of people don't know where he's come from. And being from a small town in Pennsylvania, then going to a Division II school, and then getting drafted late, it kind of makes you wonder, how did he actually make it? So we're going to dive into his career. We're going to talk about the different aspects from a psychological standpoint, as well as trying to recreate yourself and build yourself into that player that's able to get to Major League Baseball, but more importantly, stay at the top level of your game. So if you're a person that has big aspirations, who wants to make these big leaps and bounds in the athletic space, Big City has you covered in this episode. Enjoy.
Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms. Not across from me is actually Matt Adams. Welcome. We have right to my right is David Berkby, and then Rafi, just like literally sneak attack on podcasts.
Four-time All-Star here.
Yeah, so glad to have you back. Guys, in this episode, we have Matt Adams, MLB star. Obviously, if you're a St. Louis Cardinal, you know exactly who he is. Really glad to have you, man. Big thing that I really want to touch on and talk about, which is huge just in the baseball space, is your unique story coming from Slippery Rock. And if people don't know who Slippery Rock is, it's a college in Pennsylvania, correct? Yep. And it's a Division II. And so when you think about draft and you think about divisions, it's actually pretty tough to make it to the big leagues from a Division II school, and also where you got drafted in that draft and actually making it. And one thing that both of us share is that I was in Springfield when you were in Springfield. I was a junior, and I remember watching BP because we could only sneak in because the groundskeeper was his name's Brock. And he's like, you can't be near the field at all. And then Brock got really cool my senior year, but I wanted to get a sneak peek.
Even as a Missouri State guy, you couldn't get in?
No, because when they were in, they treated us like we were second-rate citizens. So these pros would be walking in, and then you try to avoid the Springfield Cardinals guys, and then the Springfield Cardinals guys, that's their home field, yeah. So they're walking all over the place. And then when they're in the indoor, we try to be out of the indoor. And then finally, Brock just got cool with it because he was just like, all right, you guys can hang out with the Springfield Cardinals guys. So, but junior year, I would sneak over and watch his BP because everyone was talking about it. This guy's mashing in the Texas League. And for us at Hammonds in the springtime, it is extremely difficult to hit a ball out of the ballpark. And this was right when they come in, it's right at the end of spring. And then this guy was just launching home runs over the indoor. So
whenever we got there, we had a workout. We were supposed to play the big league club, and that got canceled. So we did a 2-hour practice, and I remember taking BP and I don't know if it was just a day or whatnot, but the ball was guys were putting them on the roof of the indoor, and I'm like, this is gonna be a fun place to play.
Yeah, because we're using metal bats, we're barely hitting this ball out of the ballpark in the springtime because it's crosswinds, and then I didn't realize it changes in the summer. During middle spring to end summer, it starts changing. And I'm just oh my God, this guy's superhuman. Albert Pujols is in so much trouble.
Yeah, that turned out not to be true.
But go down your story. So Slippery Rock, and I want to go down because your stepdaughter's going through the recruiting process too, which I find extremely fascinating because you were a Division II guy, made the big leagues, and now you're recruiting dad. Super dad trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so I had a 75% ride to go to University of Pitt, and that the head coach called me after I went there for my official visit, did everything, met the players, coaching staff, sat down, talked with them. A week later, I get a call saying that my grades are not good enough that I got to retake my test scores. Got them where Pitt wanted them, and they called back and they're like, in that week we found a catcher from Canada, offered him scholarship, so we're gonna have to offer you a walk-on spot. And I'm like, my dream was always to play, as is anybody playing baseball wants to go to a good D1 school and continue playing baseball. And I get a phone call saying that like my scholarship was pulled, and I was like, I just want to go somewhere to play. I don't want to sit on the bench and get like forgot about. I want to play and develop and get better. So my high school coach played for my coach Jeff Messer at Slippery Rock. So he made a phone call. It was late. They came and watched one of our playoff games, and the rest is history. I go in, meet the coaching staff at Slippery Rock, and just felt like at home. With it's out in Western PA and out in the middle of nowhere, and like that's where I grew up in Pennsylvania, central part of the state, but in the middle of the woods, out in the middle of nowhere. So I felt at home there, and just.
So you're a country boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I turned into somewhat of a city boy here.
So you were a catcher?
I was drafted as a catcher. Yeah.
No kidding. I didn't know that.
And then I showed up to Johnson City rookie ball, and they had me listed as an infielder, and I was like, thank God. Especially after going in 2010, my first spring training, and just seeing what those guys have to deal with.
Yeah.
So you and Voigt had like the same like path, because Voigt was a catcher.
I never knew that he was drafted as a catcher until like 2 years ago.
Yeah. And he was down in Springfield when you were down in Springfield. It's crazy. And then
Yeah.
Pierce Johnson, who's in the big leagues as well, who just
Yep.
had a one inning start. They're doing it now. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. But I mean, now knowing what I went through with the whole, pulling scholarships to recruit somebody else, and having my stepdaughter, get interested with lacrosse, and we've taken her to Ohio State. She had a recruitment camp there. She's going to, I think, UNC in December.
Okay.
Everything's
doing
out
another
east,
camp.
right? It's all out
Yeah,
east. Yeah.
lacrosse is real
Yeah.
big, eastern part of the country. But hearing her thoughts on like, well, I just want to go D1. I only want to go, and I'm like, listen,
Hold on.
like it's like with lacrosse, like it's different because there's not much of a path after
Sure.
college.
There's not pro. Well, I guess there is, but there's
pro,
not.
But it's not like Major League Baseball or football or anything like that. So for them, Division I lacrosse is a big deal. So she's got to work at it, obviously, but I'm also wanting her to know that there are good D2 programs out there that will give her maybe more attention one-on-one than if you go to a big D1 and just kind of get shoved in there and sit in the bench and not really having the ability to grow as an athlete.
At what point did you just kind of settle down with I'm gonna go Division II? Because how it is. Like when you're young, you have the testosterone and you want status, and you try to go after the D1 dream. Like at what point were you just like, you know what, screw it, I don't care anymore?
I think realizing that Pitt was really my only D1 offer that I got.
Yeah.
I got interest from other schools to walk on and whatnot, but like I said, I didn't want to do that because I knew small school Pennsylvania guy coming in, all these other recruits are coming from Florida, California, Texas. I would get lost in the shuffle, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go somewhere where I could hit the ground running, play, and develop. So.
And was Slippery Rock known for? Sorry to interrupt, but is Slippery Rock known for baseball?
No, not at
So,
the time.
so
not at the time, no.
Literally, you're going into a program that's I don't even know, it's not known as a baseball program, like a perennial Division II. Because we talked about Tampa before we got on the mics.
In Pennsylvania, they're well known.
Yeah.
But outside of the state and there are other D2 programs that are way more known than Slippery Rock was. They had a handful of guys drafted way before me, but I just I had my comfort of knowing that my college or my high school coach played for the coach that I was going to play for, hearing how he was and how he interacted with his players, like it just made me feel at ease to where, like you said, I could put that, having to go D1 behind me and just focus on going in there and giving it my all to.
So was it like development? Was it his personality? Was it just the stories that you heard from him?
I would have to say his one-on-one skills, like the communication skills that he has, and he was honest. Like if he knew that you needed to work at something, he was brutally honest to let you know, hey, if you want to play for me, you got to get better at A, B, and C.
Yeah.
So I like that because I'm the type of guy that I need to be pushed. If I have any leeway, like.
So if you were sucking, he'd be like, dude, you suck right now.
Or he would bench you, sit you down, and explain why you're not playing. And,
That's a breath of fresh air too, like even in club baseball, because it seems like a lot of coaches just like talk you up.
Yeah.
Depends on the
good.
parent. That's all I'm saying.
Dynamite drop in, Monty. Can't wait for the next round.
I don't remember what he said after that.
I know. I can't remember the whole dodgeball. Like who it was
Cotton or whatever.
Cotton.
Yeah, Bateman was
Dynamite drop.
Yeah, Bateman was the color commentary on that. Yeah. Everyone forgets that he had a small role in dodgeball.
Isn't that funny?
So funny. So funny. So yeah, then after Slippery Rock, you went into you got drafted. And were you a senior draft or were you a junior draft?
No, I was a junior draft.
Oh, you were one of the lucky ones, yeah.
23rd round. We were told I went and did 4 or 5 the draft camps at different stadiums. Went to Yankee Stadium, Citi Field, Fenway, and then went down south and did 2 workouts for the Royals and the Braves.
Okay.
And we were told after those things that I would go 7th to the 10th round. So come draft
it's always
day,
like it
I'm
is, right?
Yeah.
computer, and it's okay, I knew I wasn't going day 1.
Yeah.
So day 2, I didn't sleep much the night before. Woke up super excited, and my family and I just around the computer because at that time I don't know if they do it now, but it's all any day day 2, day 3 is all online.
Yeah.
You just gotta keep refreshing the page.
I think they still do that. That's what happened in 2012 when I was could have got drafted, didn't get drafted, but literally sitting there trying to click and refresh and be like, am I going?
It's miserable.
Yeah.
And 7th round came, 8th round came, 9th round came, 10th round came, nothing. And I'm at that time I just got pissed. And I was livid, and I got up and I told my mom and dad, I said, I got in my car and I went to my friend's house and just kind of got my mind off of it.
Yeah.
And I pulled into my friend's driveway and get a phone call from my agent at the time saying, hey, you may go next round.
Yep.
The Cardinals have a lot of interest. And then 23rd round came and I get a phone call from the Cardinals, and the rest is history. I worked out 2 days. It took to negotiate. It was not long negotiation.
Yeah.
Process with.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your choices go back to school for senior year and potentially get drafted again, or you're taking a risk.
But
you're going to take a risk because literally you're going to get a quick trip sweet tea and a half a taquito to go down to spring training if you're a senior.
Yeah. Senior sign. You're getting maybe $1,000 and, like you said, a plane ticket to go down and not even really get looked at.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you're a senior sign, you're
basically on the
old.
chopping block.
Yeah. So I wanted my dream was always to, get drafted and play pro ball. So that happened, and I wanted to take it and run with it. I sat down, talked with my family, and made the decision to go ahead and forego my senior year and start the process of playing pro ball. And it was weird because I've never, college was an hour and a half away. So now I'm packing my bags and hopping on a flight and going to the middle of Tennessee, and with no friends, no family, just by myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and you have Dominicans, you have
a little different than D2 Pennsylvania.
people from California.
Don't know much Spanish, and now I'm just I'm getting thrown into the fire. But it made me grow as a person, being able to go through that process, and just always feeling like you weren't good enough to go higher, you weren't good enough to go D1, it made me play with a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
Like when we got there, started working out, I had that chip on my shoulder, and I wasn't going to let anybody take that from me.
What's the negotiations like? Because that's one thing. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. But you don't hear how negotiations are when it comes to professional baseball. And I think that's a hindrance on a lot of players, because then when they get thrown into the negotiation table, they don't know how to handle it. What are those like? Could you give some insight?
From the draft standpoint?
From a draft standpoint, or just like in general?
From the draft standpoint, there wasn't much. I mean, the only thing we negotiated was like them paying for my last year of schooling.
Okay.
Because I was, not a big school guy, drafted in 23rd round, so there wasn't really much
Leverage
with, the amount of signing bonus. But the one thing that I did want to make sure was that I had that security blanket where if, I didn't make it, I could always go back and finish and get my degree and start, the next chapter of my life. But
now, was there a time frame to that? Like you had to get it done in a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there was once they make the call, like for me, and you can touch on this too. I think we had 48 hours. Like my agent called me, they called him back, and then we got it done fast because like I said, there wasn't much back and forth like leverage with the signing bonus and whatnot. But
and were you required to go to Slippery Rock, or could you choose any university
for
that senior year?
They based it on me going back to Slippery Rock.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They priced like what they were paying for the last year of school was.
You can go to state school. You can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can transfer.
So technically, you could like negotiate that into your contract.
Yeah. But if you're from Florida and you go to Florida State, they're gonna give you in-state salary. So if you move to somewhere else, like it's not enough money to probably go to that school.
Now, do they put like a time stipulation on that? Like you have to finish your degree at a certain amount of time,
I'm not sure how it is for once you make it to the bigs, but like I'm pretty sure you have within a few years of when you're done playing to get it done.
I think it was 2 years.
2 years
after
within
you
you're
were
done playing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That you had to enroll back in for that last year.
And that the major league teams love that because they even though a lot of the kids negotiate it in goodwill of hoping to go back to school, it's a crazy percent that never uses that money. So the big league teams love to shoot that money up high and keep your signing bonus the same.
I'm sure they're trying to open that up with that money first.
Yeah.
But I mean, technically, if you think like dollar to dollar, like I could just negotiate.
But a lot of kids end up
the
not
salary.
using money. So then it's like the big league teams are like, oh, we'll negotiate all we want on salary or on tuition.
It's almost like you want like some professional guys probably like listen, like, oh, you don't tell them the secrets.
I don't care.
But like,
I think we know that by now.
But I mean, like, hence the shirt.
Very nice person.
I mean, technically, what you could do is you could just say, all right, and let's just say it's a $20,000 for each year. Like if you went to a certain school, I just take that money, put it into a account that I can't touch, has a time sensitive, and then I just pull it out at that point.
I think you can use it. You don't have to. I think once you start it for school, you can. I don't think you have to use all of it for school, do you?
That I'm not sure.
Or if your school costs less, you can keep that money or something like that.
Yeah, you can keep the difference. I do know that, but I'm not sure if you can use it for something else. But I think it's cool that they give that option. But like Raf said, a lot of guys end up not using it.
It's hard. I mean, once you're in the minors for 5 years and then you're 24, 26 years old, you're not going to go back to school.
Well, I mean, imagine a guy like me. I'm 33 and like, hey, let's go back to a 4-year. Sure.
You'll be that old guy that everyone talks about. Like, God dang. That old guy with the beard and crazy ass t-shirts.
Oh, God.
Minor league baseball, being a guy that's drafted later, being a guy that's Division II, is it stressful?
Very. I mean, you're putting so much pressure on yourself day in and day out because you have to go out there and perform, or you're getting sent home and your dream's over.
Would you consider that like the ultimate pressure? Or would you say World Series or?
I mean, I think they're two different kinds of pressure.
At the time, I think it's
Did you just feel like you were on the chopping block for that first couple of years? Like all the time you go into a 0 for 20 slump and you're done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I hit well like every minor league stop I had. But there was times where I would go 0 for 15, 0 for 20 and I would feel like, well, damn, I'm going to walk in tomorrow and I'm getting called into the manager's office and I'm going home. Just because later round guy, they're not like I was told when I made it I debuted in 12, my first full season in 13. After that season, Mark DeJean, who was my rookie ball manager in Batavia, New York, he came up for September call-ups in 13, and he pulled me aside and he goes, "It's so awesome that you made it because you were not supposed to make it.
Yep.
You were drafted to fill a roster spot on a minor league team." And I was like, that just added to like the fire in me.
Most kids are like that. What's crazy about what he just said is most players are not drafted for
No.
It's almost congratulations for having a good college career. We need someone to fill in to help develop, like to have our prospects play against somebody in reality. So like when they sign their first, second rounders, third rounders, or their big money guys like me and Matt were really just the people for them to play against to help them develop. And it was really just like, hey, good job with college career. You're good enough to like play against the guys we actually want to develop. It's just so we can have our first round prospects play against people and have teammates.
Yeah.
They just give those guys a ton more attention, I assume.
Or
do they not?
They give them way more attention.
It's crazy.
They have a much longer leash
Sure.
on if they struggle, if they mess up off the field. And it's like Ralph said, we were brought in to fill a position, and we never were thought of to make it to the majors. And when guys like that make it, no matter if you know them, you don't know them, you love it.
Yeah.
You love hearing guys that weren't supposed to make it.
Yeah. That's huge.
Now, is this true where like a manager, I heard this, I wanted to see if this is true, but they put up the lineup on the dugout, like they put the lineup up and then they put the round and money next to the lineup. Is that true?
I've never seen the money, but in the dugouts in the minor leagues, you would have the lineup and then they would put the roster sheet next to the lineup, and it would be like where they went to school, what round they were drafted in.
Oh,
and where they were at the year before.
Yeah. So you're literally seeing that every single day.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. First round, third round, fourth
So basically
round,
it's like a
fifth
hit
round,
list
second
of like,
round,
I got to beat that guy, I got to beat that guy, I got to beat that guy.
And I'll go back to like playing with the chip on my shoulder, like seeing that. And, after my first week in pro ball, I was hitting, granted it was only a week, but I was hitting over 350. And like these first rounders that were drafted in the first round the year before are hitting,
190.
.90, 150. And I'm like, but, they're getting all the attention from the hitting coach, from the man. And I'm like,
I'm sure.
This is absolutely insane.
When did you look at those guys and be like, dude, I'm better than you?
Yeah, you got to.
You have to.
And you have
right?
to, like, in this sport and in life in general, you have to walk around with a confidence about yourself.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get eaten alive. And
especially in that environment, like it's a dog-eat-dog world. Like,
yeah.
You literally don't know who's your friend and who's your enemy. It
absolutely.
Seems like.
Yeah.
You don't know if you have like a real friend.
Yeah.
Because even your real friend's just going to get released or traded or
and then you never talk to them.
And then you probably never talk.
Yeah, it's weird. Like,
does it get better when you get to the big leagues?
Yeah.
When you're an established guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when you're not, like, you still kind of have the minor league mentality of like, could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm not gonna know his name until he's here for 2 weeks.
In reality, yeah, it's like
for sure. And like I went back to dealing with that minor league mindset the last 2 years because I was on minor league deals, not getting every day at bats and struggling a little bit where I was like, well, like I was waking up and wondering, well, is today my last day on this team? Like,
oh dang, so
it
came back.
They came back, but like realizing that, my future is in my hand. Like I can either, give into this mindset and falter and be done, or I can pick my ass back up and get back to work and keep going until I can't go anymore.
Before we kind of cut you off, you said there's 2 types of pressure. What are those 2 types of pressure?
I feel like in the minor leagues, the pressure is to make it.
Okay.
And you're always putting this, it's pressure, but you're always holding yourself to such a high standard. And you do it in the majors as well. But like once you make it to the majors, at least for myself, the pressure turned into, well, now I'm on national TV. The pressure of making a mistake, pressure of, striking out with the bases loaded, pressure of making an error and letting the game-winning runs. Like,
because you don't want a Buckner moment.
That was the pressure that I felt in the big leagues my first couple of years. And then you realize that, for me in 17 was whenever I wanted to make I chose to make, the mental side of the game big for like a big point of my career, knowing that if I could get that in control, then the pressure somewhat diminishes. And, by breathing, by having mantras that you use, like, I was out in the field talking to myself every pitch.
So you end up changing, like, because like your career is interesting because you end up changing your body, changing your mind and everything. It obviously seeing you at Springfield and then seeing your career once Albert ended up leaving, you came in, and then you ended up being a big contributor to that team. Like, is that a catalyst to like you went up to another level and you had to change, you had to adapt and change?
Yeah. I mean, in the game of baseball, you're constantly having to adapt and change because, and he'll talk about it from a catching standpoint. As a hitter, these pitchers and catchers sit down on a nightly basis and go over how to get you out, what your weaknesses are, where they're going to attack you. And as a hitter, we have to know what our weaknesses are. And some guys are not willing to accept, hey, my weakness is this.
So are you studying a lot of video and stuff?
You have to study video. You have to just, when the game starts, you have to see what that guy has that night.
Yeah.
If his curveball is on, if it's not on, you can eliminate that pitch, and then he becomes a 2-pitch pitcher.
Yep.
It's a lot of cat and mouse.
Yeah, it's all cat and mouse. I mean, I can remember because we met that year when you first decided to like change up your body and mindset and all that. We met a little bit hitting. We didn't really hang out much. Then the next year, we started working out together, and so that was pretty cool. I mean, that was probably best times of my off seasons were working out with you guys. But with as far as the scouting, what's crazy about it all is, I wasn't up a ton, but we played against each other that year probably 8 times.
A lot, yeah.
And in San Diego and in Washington. And what's crazy is like a lot of his strengths were then surrounded with like a weakness. But if you missed to that, it was like down and in sliders. You know what I mean? Like if they were in the zone, you hit home runs. If they were below the zone, we could maybe get him out. But he would learn to like, he knew that's where we were going. So sometimes he was able to I'm just selling out to this spot and knowing that they're going to try and attack this weakness. And if you missed, I mean, like just the tiniest bit, like it was a home run.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of that simple. And that's what's so crazy about the big league hitters, especially good big league hitters, is like you can prepare all you want, but if you don't execute, like it doesn't really matter. And if you don't execute, you better hope you're calling a game hoping you're also thinking about where the pitcher's going to miss.
Yeah.
And like, does his misses also add up to the hitter's strengths or weaknesses? So you may completely abort a pitch because you're like, well, my pitcher tends to miss here, and that's also strength for him. So next pitch. And that's kind of how it is.
Dang.
And they know that. They're looking at that.
So would you ever bait pitchers into a pitch?
Not on purpose.
Mentally,
that was your moment to say, "Yeah, I'm a genius."
There were times that I felt like you did.
I mean, mentally, I'm trying to think along with them on what they're trying to do, depending on what the count is, what the situation is. how my previous at bats have been and what they've gotten me out on, or what I've done off of them.
So this history could go back all the way like in May.
Oh yeah,
Even in spring training.
And now what the teams have in the dugouts are iPads, and you can go you used to have to go up to the video room, get on the computer and click, and you can literally type in what year you want to look at, what if it's the pitcher that you're facing that night, starter, reliever, whatnot, and if you have at bats off of them, you can pull them up and watch all of them. Now it's on an iPad in the dugout, so you'll see, if you watch games, you'll see guys now mid-game just sitting down on the bench, scrolling through their video or video of the pitchers that is coming in, and it's crazy.
Someone's warming up.
At what point does win reality start coming into play in that? Do you think Major League Baseball will not allow that? Or because think about it, video to VR is not that big of a gap.
No, and I mean I've known I have that win reality at home. It's absolutely crazy. I should utilize it more than what I probably do. But I know there was a few teams in 2019 and 2020 that had it in the clubhouse to where the guys that were on the bench, if a guy was getting ready for a pinch hit at bat, they would go in and literally face the pitcher that was warming up in the it's,
but even if you think
brilliant.
But if you think about recall too, so if you do all right, I faced him in May 19th in the third inning, and I can pull that up on Win Reality, and then I can face that I can go through that same at bat and go exactly how it went.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's if Win Reality is that advanced.
But I can see that happening.
It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
If it's not already there. But the whole people think that it's just a game that we go out and have fun. There's a lot of work that goes into being successful.
There's plenty of times it's not fun.
No.
It's really not.
I mean,
you're working so hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You're working from the moment you wake up on a game day, you're thinking about the pitcher that you're facing.
So you're saying it's not like the 1930s where they'd
No.
go drink beer and
Absolutely
party it out.
No, and
Fun's a game.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
in
and
batting
competing and going out there and just leaving it all on the line, and then after the game, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, you're just worn down, and it's winning's the absolute most fun. You win a game, you go in the clubhouse, you let your breath out and you relax and shoot the crap with your boys in the clubhouse after a win. Losing sucks. Nobody wants to lose.
It's funny you say that. Sorry to interrupt, but with the end of the game, when it's completely true that when that last out's made, you can literally just feel your entire body just kind of just exhale and relax because you're just so on edge at all times and not wanting to mess up in front of fans, or you're where's the damn iPad? I'm on deck. New pitcher, give me the iPad. You're very much. But sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. That's a great point.
You really are just oh, okay, the game's over. I don't have to, I won't embarrass myself now or something like that.
Now, are there guys I'm sure there are, but are there guys in the league that just it's just natural where they don't have any stress whatsoever?
I think they're lying.
Yeah,
quite honestly.
Even Mike Trout or those guys. I guess you don't. Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know them, but I know my wife. She's worked with professional athletes for 20+ years.
Okay.
And she's got her majors in psychology, so she's the one that kind of got me into the mindset stuff and all that. So I would sit there and if we were watching an NBA playoff game, a football game, MLB playoffs, I would ask her if a dude looked just ice in his veins, nothing bothers him, no worry in the world. I would sit there and ask her. I'd be like, hey babe, does this guy deal with anything, or is he just living life? And she's like, when you're an athlete at that level, you deal with some form of stress.
Sure. I'd assume so.
And it's I mean, there's guys that do a really good job of hiding that and making it seem like the game is easy, but they may not be dealing with something on the field.
Yeah.
That might be their place to, escape from whatever the pressures that they're dealing with, whether it's, family, something off the field. But
Well, think about
I
the
feel like
obsession, though.
Yeah, everybody deals with some form of.
I think there's some guys who can simplify better, but they all deal with stress.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about like The Last Dance, like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like I think the reason that he was able to get rid of that stress was because he just competed. Like he just competed everything. Like he'd be literally right before the game, he'd be gambling.
Yeah.
With the ushers.
Right.
That's other problems.
Well, I mean, like you have to cope with it at some point, right?
Well, and I think like have you ever read Relentless?
Oh yeah, love that.
Like
book.
Tim Grover talks about, the dark side. So I very successful people, whether it's business people, professional athletes, they have a dark side that it's almost like an alter ego that they turn into to go out there and perform their best. Mm-hmm. And then when that game, that event, that deal is closed, then they, behind closed doors, they're themselves. But they tap into that alter ego to be successful.
They're just a different person.
It's really weird. So when I stopped playing, I kind of had to figure some things out. And I mean, you've been a part of like the last couple of years of my career, actually most of it. And I'd always tell him like baseball, like it brings out the worst of me. When you don't do well, even when you're doing well, sometimes like he's talking about that dark side like comes out, and like almost like the worst parts of you are accentuated in those moments. And I can remember even like I forgot who I told it to, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like Kobe Bryant would talk about that all the time." And it's weird as then when you're not playing, you're just like kind of on edge at times because you're so used to kind of feeding this avoiding certain negative thoughts, but at the same time like that side of you just happens to come out.
Yeah, you gotta fuel that animal.
Yeah, and it really is like he's saying, kind of this alter ego, but like that alter ego can also be like a dark side of you that you may not like very much, but that's the only way you can play.
Was it competition that triggered that for you, or the level, or what?
I think for anyone, it's failure. Really.
Failure's a big thing because nobody wants to fail.
Yeah,
right.
And it's sometimes just the thought of failure, never mind actually failing.
Right.
But like even like coping with failure at the big stage, like. Because again, you played in World Series, you went deep into the playoffs. Like, does that ever cross your mind? And if it does, like, how did you cope with that? Like, that's a big stage. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to put myself in that situation. It's just like,
I mean, I lost the game in. I'll take you through like an event. We were playing the Giants. I want to say it was in 14 in the CS because we beat the Dodgers in the division series.
Is that when Puig was with Dodgers?
Yeah.
Okay, that year. Okay.
And coming off, I hit the homer off Kershaw to send us to the CS, and then game 6, tie game. Or no, we were up by 1.
Is this in St. Louis or
No, this is in San Fran.
Okay.
Packed 50,000 people. That atmosphere is one of the best in baseballs, but they're ruthless. They hate the opposing players. Hate them.
Those damn vegans.
And
no offense if you're a vegan.
No.
It's just
Or
San
from
Fran.
California.
we were up by 1, I believe, and first and third, 1 out. And I want to say it was Pagan hit a ball to me. I touched first, and instead of looking like Crawford stopped at third, he's a tying run.
Yeah.
So now there's 2 outs. Instead of looking at him and stopping him, I just turned straight and threw to second and threw the ball away, and they ended up tying the game. Next inning, short hopper, I come in, charge, and the guy's safe at home. So like I'm destroyed. Like I basically feel like I lost the game for us, and like. They need one more win and it's over. And it was just, like that was not a great feeling. But like I went in there to the clubhouse after the game was over. I did not want to take my uniform off, did not want to leave because I felt like I let everybody down.
Yeah.
And my teammates came up and patted me on the back. And, when they did that, they didn't even say anything to me. It just made me feel like, hey, it happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was able, to let that go and show up the next day and hit a big go-ahead homer off Bumgarner. And we ended up losing on a walk-off grand slam, but like I was able to, I failed the night before big time. I was able to, let that go and not dwell on it and be able to show up and
Put your team into a position to actually win the game.
yeah. And I think like that's like, to touch on like your point, you have to have a quick like memory. You gotta like, everybody's gonna fail, whether it's something with your business, and if you're an athlete, you're gonna fail one time or another. But I mean, the greatest hitters fail 7 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
So you just have to have a quick memory. You flush it and get ready for the next opportunity.
So like when you hit your head on that pillow, it literally just empties.
Yeah. Well, I try to like
Try it empty.
Try it.
Yeah.
For me, I try to leave it at the clubhouse. Like I try to empty it before I even leave the field, so I don't take. My main goal was whenever I met my wife. This is my second marriage, so like whenever I met my wife, I did not want to bring what I was dealing with, whether it was failure, whatever I was dealing with at the field. I did not want to bring that home and put on her. Like so, my main thing was feel what you have to feel after the game and leave it at the field. Like that was one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten.
So you would actually bring it home with you.
Oh, I was the worst. Like in the
everyone,
minors,
yeah.
I was the worst. Like I would, and like I didn't hit below 300 in the minors ever. And I would have a game where I was over 4, and I'd come home and I would want to break shit, or I would want to beat somebody up, and I did not handle it well.
Was that kind of was that like your whole uniform stayed on until you were ready to take it off idea?
Yeah, and I've even played with guys that shower. Like if they have had a bad game,
They shower it off.
Shower in their uniform, and then they would take their uniform off, and like
Be done.
that was like them flushing like a bad game,
Yeah.
or whatnot. But
It's crazy what the headspace will do. Like
It's nuts. Like people don't realize, like when you're watching these and you hear people like, "Hey guys, like they're not gladiators, they're not robots. Like these are human beings." Like, and it's true. Like people don't realize. They just think because you're making good money and you're in the big leagues and you're on TV and everyone wants to be you, that life's easy. And yeah, sure. I mean, I guess a $200-300 million contract makes it easier, sure. But if anything, that puts that much more pressure.
I was going to say there's pressure.
So-
that's
that comes
pressure a
along
lot.
with-
Yeah.
And I think that's where you see this whole like New York Mets versus Mets saga. Like their biggest rivalry is each other. It's not even other teams.
Yeah.
And it because to Mets fans' mind, it's like, hey, Francisco, you have $300 million. Like, why are you hitting poorly? Like, if anything, that just puts that much more pressure on him to hit better.
Yeah, I think like
Never mind.
when they sign those contracts, that's the first thing that
Yeah.
goes to my head is like, okay, I know that person's making an investment in me. I've got to produce.
So you get the people are like, I have to prove I'm worth that, and it's a lot
especially
harder.
in a market in like New York or
New York's
LA.
nuts,
Like
yeah.
it's, you see those guys. I mean, look at like Stanton dealt with it his first couple years.
Oh yeah.
With the like he was getting booed every time he stepped to the plate. And like sometimes you just gotta invite that in, and like some guys are really good at like letting that fuel them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some guys that like that eats at them. And like I don't deal well with if I'm getting booed or whatnot. Like my first couple years, if I got booed,
That's like human. Like
I
you don't
was
want to
a
get
wreck.
you don't want to be like you want to be liked, right? You don't want to be.
Did you turn mad? Like, well, F you?
No, I felt pissed off
Yeah.
when it happened, but then I was like, well, like I feel like I'm in like once again, like my wife points it out now, like that if I'm getting booed, she's like, well, you're relevant. Like
Perspective.
that is
that's a
fact.
good
It's a good perspective change.
way to like look at it, like
Yeah.
to look at the positive instead
Yeah.
of dwelling on the negative of like people not liking you. But
I can only imagine as like a fan, like if you're like a big name guy that came out, like Bryce Harper, obviously with his career started junior college, everyone knew who he was, and then now Max Clark for the Indiana Bulls, he's going to be the same way as Bryce, like where you have a bad day and you have to deal with those fans, like not deal, but like you just had a 0 for 4 night with 4 Ks and you have to go sign some autographs for some people.
yeah, that
autograph Nazis. Is
yeah,
what we
there's.
call them. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some crazy people that on a night like that you do not want to run into
Yeah.
out of the park.
Right.
Well, I love what Otani did at the All-Star game, where it was the older guys that were trying to get autographs, and the older guys were like pushing these kids over, and then Otani would like push that guy over and then find the kid and sign it, and then another guy would come in, he'd push it. It was like just literally like stiff arming these like
They're
older
crazy.
dudes.
Yeah, the older guys are crazy.
Oh, it's
And, like,
brutal.
they're like, you'll see them like, not so much the last couple of years because of, you know, the situation and whatnot, but like when we would go to New York, we went to New York a lot in 17 and 18 with the Nationals, or 18 and 19. And, you know, we would be sitting on the bus getting ready to leave the team hotel, and like these old guys would give kids a baseball and run up because they know that like
Because they're gonna sell your
sign,
they're gonna sell your autograph.
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not genuine. It's like I'm gonna
Yes.
take it, I'm gonna flip it on eBay.
Well-
And it's like, well, that freaking sucks.
You go to Cooperstown. I went to Cooperstown with my dad, and I saw. You remember Mike Ohl, right?
Yeah.
I saw like 15. They literally had like 15 autographed Mike Ohl baseballs on the main street of Cooperstown, like one of those autograph stores, like
No way.
memorabilia stores.
Yeah.
And I was like, asked the guy, like I knew exactly how he got them. How'd you get them? He's like, oh, I make a trip here for spring training. I make a trip here for spring training. It's great.
Oh, it's
and then
brutal,
I have
man.
inventory.
Yeah.
Like literally, this guy's entire storefront was just all
brutal.
spring training autographs.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like the guys in New York, they will pay. Like if you know one of us signs a ball for these little kids and they bring them back, they get like we watched the guy hand the kid a $5 bill. So it's like, well, that right there knows that I'm never signing another autograph in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's
these
like-
guys are sending kids because we know, like they know that we will sign for kids because that's what it's
Yeah,
all about.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that is what it's all about.
I want to go back to something he said earlier that I thought was really cool. That you were talking about like booing and negativity and like, you know, the things that come up in a game. And you said, it was just cool. Cause I mean, we talked mental side a lot working out and like if we hang out or whatever. And you said sometimes you just got to invite it in. Mm-hmm. And I know we got some of like the young players who will listen to the podcast and whatnot. And I just think that's a really cool point you brought up that, you know, sometimes just invite in that pressure, invite in that like negativity, invite in that thought of failure, invite in the whatever it is you're scared of, just invite it in and kind of just meet it dead on, see what happens.
Absolutely. I think like a big point with that is you have to, like, if you want to grow and if you want to, you know, reach the next level and be successful, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And you listen to, like, you know, Tim Grover's a great person that talks about, you know, being comfortable in like being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying it the right way.
No,
but,
that's
like,
right.
Yeah.
Hey, you're
Yeah.
right.
Another one, Andy Frisella at
love him.
First
Yeah.
Form.
Big fan.
That's all they talk about is like, you know, they're like the world's crazy right now, but you're in charge of your own destiny and your own path. So for you to grow, for you to be successful, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable, because that being in that uncomfortable phase, that's when you grow. That's when you get better, and that's when you become a better person.
You're in the learning process, basically.
Yeah, you always have to be in the learning process. Like they're like those guys that like, you know, the top athletes, the top business people, like they have to learn too. Like, you know, they may look like they have it all figured out, but they're always learning, because that's what life is.
Yeah.
You know, going through life, adjusting, learning, and being able to, you know, take that next step. And
Well, that's what makes life interesting. Is
Absolutely.
being able to learn. It's not about obviously like having money and all that. That's nice, but being able to learn continually and finding new things that you're capable of. That's what I think really is like the big thing, where a lot of people think, oh, I want to be famous. I want to have money. I want to be on TikTok where all these people comment on my posts. Like, that's not what it's about.
I don't think guys play to be famous. I mean,
No,
I
I
can think
didn't.
of going to
Yeah.
a hockey game with you a couple years back, and that lady just standing in front of us.
yeah,
She's like, "Hey, Matt," blah blah blah, and like literally standing with her back to the ice rink, to the rink.
yeah, not even
And then-
watching. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Not even watching.
There's
just
a game
completely
on.
Yeah,
Right there.
Just because you
and
know
I'm
he's
like,
mad.
I'm here to
It's
watch
like-
the game. I don't want to talk to you. Like, I don't know who you are, but like, I'll be
It's so
nice
funny.
and like say
Sure.
hi, but like, I just want to get to my seat with my wife and my friend, and I just want to watch a
It
game.
was, yeah, and like she literally, then she points to me, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm just a friend trying to watch a hockey game with my friend." "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," and then like walk away. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not looking for that attention
No.
when you play.
And
And if
like-
anything, that's the attention that like what we talked about once was getting pro players, big league players, and never go back into youth baseball because then they know it's just going to be parents just doing things like that or
Well, and they
kids you
don't
grew up
want to
with.
draw the attention away from the kids.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was funny.
But like to touch on that's like topic. Like my wife and I were sitting in breakfast in Jupiter one spring training. We had an off day. We slept in. We were gonna grab a nice breakfast and go to the beach and enjoy the off day. And I'm sitting. My wife is sitting where you are.
Yeah.
And our food just gets delivered, and this lady comes in and sits in the booth next to me, puts her arm around me. And my like Kim, my wife, she goes, like, as
Excuse
this lady's
me?
sitting here, do you know this lady? And I said, no, I don't know who. She's like,
She was about to beat
she's
this
like,
lady
I'm
up.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt your guys' breakfast. And
Too
my
late.
wife
What you
was
do?
like,
Oh, you did.
you know Kim, like
Yeah, I
she's
know
not
Kim,
afraid
yeah.
to say it. Like she goes, well, you did interrupt this breakfast. So like, she's like, can I get a picture? And my wife's like, no, we're here enjoying breakfast. Like he's
It's
not at the
insane,
field. Like we're it's his off day.
it's
like,
cool at first, and then
yeah.
after a few times, you're like, I just want to eat.
So how do you approach a big leaguer then? Or are you someone famous? Like if you saw
Don't sit down next to him.
No, no.
like if you like
when they're eating.
if you saw this like what person, if you saw them in real life, that you would just be like, holy cow, that's George Clooney.
I don't know how I would react because when I made my debut in 12 and even my first year in 13, I was starstruck on guys that I had on my own team that like I watched like whenever I was in college.
They were
whenever
on
I
your
was-
fantasy team when you were in
yeah,
college.
and I was like, well, now I'm playing with these guys. So like my first couple years, like I didn't
You
approach
don't
anybody.
say much, yeah.
I just like as a rookie, like they expect you not to like say anything. So like I take
It's
that.
changing now, but yeah, it used to be
Like I take that
sit there.
realm of like thinking like outside of the field too. Like I'll go crazy in my own head if I see like a big time actor or whatever. But
Yeah.
like I never approach them unless
Yeah.
like if they somehow know me and they wave or like give me like a head nod, like I'll do that back. But like I'm not, because I know what they're dealing with.
Yeah. Because they just want to be a normal person.
Yeah.
You want to be treated like
When
a
you
normal
probably
person.
feel like
Because
you've
we
always
are
got
normal
eyes on
people.
you.
Like we
Yeah.
don't like.
Kids are different.
Kids are
Yeah,
like
totally.
like I would invite
like, "Hey, what's up?"
any time
You
of
know,
the
and you
kids.
wave
Yeah,
hi.
like I'll make any time of the
they
day.
like say like, holy crap, you're Matt Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will sit there and talk to kids. I'll take pictures with kids, but like when grown adults do it, it's a little weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So like I don't like, to answer your question. I don't know if I would go up and approach anybody. I would be like, hey, like I'd be like, hey babe, like this so and so. Like I wouldn't like dart
Yeah.
off like some people do and like jump in front of them and like, hey, can I have your autograph?
Yeah.
Like, that's just not me. I'm sure some people would do that, but
I'm the same way.
I think
Yeah.
the best
Well, when I
thing
saw you
when-
when I saw you hit over here, I was like, in my head, I'm like, holy shit, that's Matt Adams. But then I'm like what's up?
Who's that hitting instructor?
Yeah.
Who's that hitting instructor?
the new hitting instructor? I always think that would be so funny if like a famous guy would do like lessons and they'd come in like, oh, this is your new instructor, and you're like a mustache and like fake hair, and then you're trying to teach and see if the kid actually like listens.
yeah.
I think that'd be
I
so
think
funny.
Red Bull does that kind of stuff with like their athletes. I think like Chris Bryant, they've had a few
Chris-
Yeah.
dress
I
him
was-
up and
that's
like
what I was
go
just
hit
gonna
He
BBG
did the
and-
JC thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
It
was
is
pretty
funny
cool.
when you- it's so funny.
But I would like to somewhat answer your question. Like, if you're cool about it, if you just want to say hi, like, you come up and say hi all you want. I'll say hi back. But like, it's the people that think they know you
Yeah.
and like that you're friends that sit there and want to have a 30-minute conversation with you. When I'm like, dude, I don't know who the hell you are.
Yeah, and I don't got 30 minutes right now.
Yeah, like I'm trying to get
You
my
really
work
don't.
in,
No.
Yeah.
and it's like people think that because like it's his off season, he doesn't do anything.
No,
like,
bro.
I'm
Like,
like-
it's 365.
Yeah, like
Even when I'm recovering, it's 365.
100%. And it's like I just think some people have the wrong outlook on like what we deal with.
It's true, like 100%.
So you mentioned we didn't really go down that rabbit hole, but you changed your philosophy like on dealing with the mental side and teaching yourself. And you said there'd be times that you'd actually talk to yourself as well. Can you go like down that route? Because I don't think a lot of people understand, like, yeah, it's training your body, but it's also training that mental side. And a lot of people think mental side, it's like hoopla or voodoo, or it's like, oh, I'm not crazy. I don't need that.
We're all crazy.
Yeah, we're all. I mean, weird.
Fact.
Weird and crazy.
100%.
Yeah, it's just a matter of finding the people that you like to be
I
weird
think
with, right?
Yeah, it's human nature at
And
this point, I think.
So like for me, I knew, I'm talking a lot about my wife, but like my wife's had a big impact on like my career and like changing, you know, my body, changing my mindset. Like she's the one that got me to be open to all that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because she owns her own.
she has Pilates
business?
for Pros.
Okay.
So
Shout out.
This podcast is sponsored by.
But no, I met her in 16, and I ended up staying in St. Louis in the off season of 16. And I told her, I said, I know, because I dealt with a lot of tweaky injuries that I didn't want to deal with anymore. And I was coming off tearing my rectus femoris off my hip bone.
I don't know what that
I
is,
have
but
no
that
idea what
sounds
that is.
interesting.
It's one of your main tendons that connects to your hip.
How'd you do that?
I hit a ball down in the corner at Bush, and I rounded first base, and I like felt like a pop.
Oof.
And hobbled into second base. I have no idea how I was able to hobble into second base, because the next day the doctor told me, like, whenever I woke up, I ended up having surgery on it. Woke up on the recovery table, and the doctor was like, yeah, your hip tendon was rolled up in a ball halfway down your leg. And I'm like, whoa.
Sounds good.
So you're saying it's not good?
Yeah.
So rested?
But that
or-
off season, I made a pact with myself that I wanted to, you know, lose weight, change like my body, and just change my lifestyle. Because my first couple of years, I was a guy that would, you know, after a game, I would want to, you know, have a lot of drinks with my buddies or stay up late carrying on. And I was done with that. I wanted to take it way more seriously, and met Kim, and, you know, she came up with, you know, my program and whatnot. And one thing that she asked me if I would be open to doing was, you know, talking about the mental side of the game. And at first I was like, well, I don't deal with a lot of that stuff. Like, I don't think I need it. And she's like, you're a professional athlete. Like, whether subconsciously you deal with it.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with it, then it's going to come out in ways that you don't want to deal with it. And then, so I first started talking about like the mental side with her, and like she was the one that really got me open to the fact of, you know, training your mind. And
So like, was it just like dark energy? Like you just have like negative thoughts, or was it because like when I played, I had a lot of negative thoughts. Like it just bombarded me like crazy.
well, I think it was the negative thoughts, but it was also like operating out of fear.
Okay.
Like those two were my two big things. And she started me on it, and we still do work today. Like, whether it's, you know, before my workout, whether it's, you know, at nighttime when we're just like chilling out, watching TV, like she'll like just bring up questions and ask like what's going on in your head. And that's in the off season. Like, and she does it even more so during the season. Like if she's not with me, and, you know, she's watching a game and like I don't look like myself, she'll call me. I'll have a voicemail on my phone after I get in from the game, and she's like, hey, call me when you get back to the hotel or get back to your apartment, and we'll dissect like when it went haywire and like when it changed. And I talked with a guy, the Nationals had a mental coach that, you know, I talked with daily. He like became really good friends with my wife, and so it was like I had two people in my corner that I felt strongly being able to go in there and not be judged with
Just,
you know,
share
what was on my mind.
Yeah.
And people, like especially kids wanting to, you know, play high level, you know, high school, college, and want to go on and play pro ball. Like if that's a dream, like they have to be okay with opening up to somebody, whether it's a parent, whether it's a mental like coach or whatever it is. Like you have to get that stuff out so it doesn't roll your body and send you down a dark path.
I think that's where a lot of like players don't go down because they don't want to be judged.
I also love how she approached that with you. How she said, "Are you open to that?" Because I think that's the first thing that's the hardest.
You just plant the
that's the
seed.
hardest hill to get over.
Yeah.
Literally
If she
just
would-
starting.
Yeah, and if she would have approached it by like, "Hey,
Hey,
you're
you
gonna
need
do
help."
This,
Yeah.
like, I would have been like, "Well, I don't know if she's the right one to be helping me like change my lifestyle, my body, everything." But like by the way that she approached that, it allowed me, because I sat down in spring training and told Mark, the guy with the Nationals, I was like, I never thought that I'd be sitting down talking with somebody about the fears that I had on the field and off the field, but because I would feel like, well, this guy's weak.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kim and Mark, they're like, well, that's the furthest thing from being weak. Like, that's actually showing strength that you're open and you're willing to.
Because nothing can
address
hurt you
those
at that
things.
point.
Right.
What's really cool, like talking about this, is when you're a young player, you're even more scared to like mention something.
Fact.
So, and us being pretty much the same age, but we had totally different careers, obviously. It's like I was a 31-year-old still like a rookie. You know what I mean? So then when you're a mature guy, as far as age, but you're still seen as a young player at the field, you're even honestly like more fearful of discussing these fears or negative thoughts because they're like, well, you've spent 8 years in AAA. You should have it all figured out. And it's like, well, sure. Yeah, in AAA. But like in the big leagues, it's quite the opposite. So it's really cool to hear that like what you went through, that even though you were an older guy as far as your veteran status, you were able to like put aside kind of that ego, I guess you'd say, and like be able to talk about that.
Well, and like that's one thing that both Mark and Kim talked about was you have to like there's no room for egos. Like you have to, like you said, you have to set that aside.
Yeah.
For you to be your best, for you to give the best to the team, and for your own development, and to be able to reach that next level in your growth, you have to set that aside and be willing to just open up.
Would you say the physical side is easier in the beginning, but then when you get to like the show, it's literally just mental battles constantly?
Yeah.
It's not physical.
No, when you're at that level, everybody can play, and some better than others. But you have to, like, when you reach that level, you're a great athlete. So what makes you be able to stay or adapt is, the willingness to get better with the mental side. And you're battling, the pitcher on the mound, or if you're a pitcher, you're battling that hitter on the mound. So you have to be in a great, mindset to where you're like, I'm not letting this guy beat me, and I'm going to do everything in my power, whether that's study a little more video, be open to adjustments, or adapt, change my swing a little bit to where if this guy's pitching me a certain way, if he's got a really good sinker down and away, I got to work on staying like through the ball, get under it a little bit, because if you come down on the ball, you're hitting a ground ball.
Yeah.
So it's like little like things like that run through your head to where you're constantly on a day-to-day basis, you're adapting, and you have to do that if you want to continue to get better and to stay.
Would you say that Major League Baseball is fun?
Yeah. I think,
The business aspect doesn't get in the way of it?
The business side sucks. And
When you're on the field, it's fun.
yeah, like when you're on the field, you're not thinking about, the business side of the game. You're not thinking about anything but going out there and competing with 8 of your brothers that are on that field with you to beat the team that you're playing. Like, that's the fun part, is going to battle with your brothers.
Is the playoffs different?
Yeah.
When it comes to it?
Playoffs are completely
Just a different animal?
Yeah, it's...
Is that where you start?
I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. Like, it's like 13. My rookie year, like I started in the World Series at Fenway. against the Red Sox. I was like, this
Was
is
that the
dream.
Was that the infield fly?
No,
Atlanta
that
Braves
was
Pennsylvania.
No.
That was 12.
That was the year
Kicking her
before.
heels.
But like, we're like, I'm playing against Big Papi, and like, John Lester was, pitching with like they had like a veteran staff and just a veteran lineup, and I'm like, I don't know if I belong here. But it's like the story I tell everybody is like Game 6 in Fenway. The Dropkick Murphys performed like they did like 3 or 4 songs before the national anthem.
Get 'em all riled up.
Performed the national
Jesus.
anthem, and then
Alright,
the
Boston's
F-16s
nuts enough.
flew over like right above the Green Monster, and it felt like the stadium was coming down.
The only thing that's missing is Tom Brady showing up.
Yeah, him and Gronk in the front row. But no, it's the playoff. It's fans are into every single pitch, and it seems like, like in the regular season, you'll see like a guy like makes an error or whatever, and the pitcher's able to get out of it,
Yeah.
or a batter like strikes out with the bases loaded for out number 2, and the next guy like doesn't get a hit, like that pitcher gets out of that jam. I feel like in the playoffs that doesn't happen. Like it's just like if a player makes the error in the field, that opposing teams capitalize on
Oh
it.
yeah, it's like oh shit. That
Or
sucks.
or like if, a pitcher gets the bases loaded, like those guys are locking in and getting at least 1 run across. Like it's just everybody is locked in from the first pitch of the game till the last pitch.
It even seems like from a fan's perspective, like a pitch, like one pitch that's made a mistake. That he missed that location. And you're like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah,
this
it's
is gonna be. Hence David Freeze's home run in 11.
100%.
I mean, Cardinals had no business winning that game.
No,
Well, I hate to say it, but I mean, they just didn't.
they're
Like,
getting honored
Yeah,
tomorrow. I think.
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
10-year
Tomorrow.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
No doubt.
But I think everything, the energy, the pressure, the success, like everything in playoffs is magnified.
Yeah.
More so than the regular season. I think in any sport, like,
And it's cold,
and it's freezing,
which makes
Yeah.
it worse.
which
10
is
times worse.
is not fun.
So isn't that like having now the mental side of the game pretty much on lockdown? Those situations have to be, I don't want to call it easier, but more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like you feel like you've already been through that situation.
Yeah.
Where it's like nothing's new. That if you're like you said, rock solid on your mindset, or for me, I like to use mantras, which like kind of like a short phrase to keep me like locked in or from focusing on the negatives.
do you have like an example of a mantra?
The one in 18, I was using one for whenever I'd step into the box, and I would like tap the label of my bat twice and just tell myself, let it be.
Okay.
Which like for me was like, don't try to do too much. Like that was a phrase that like resonated with me, to where like I did that, took a deep breath, and I was like, I felt calm and prepared whenever I stepped into the batter's box. So it's like things like and on defense, my main thing was like I would like look at my glove, and I had like Big City written on the thumb pad. I would look at that and just tell myself like, be relaxed.
Okay.
So it's like
Little
thing-
triggers.
Yeah, little triggers that like I use, like if I feel that like pressure or anxiousness or like the negative thought creeping in, like that's something that I can go to that like eliminates that and like keeps me focused on like the task at hand.
Because that's never going away. That's always right around the corner.
It's an evil
It's right there.
monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right there.
100%.
It's literally like the devil just sitting on your shoulder, just reminding you of the
And, like,
tiny
it-
little things you may not be good at.
Right. And it's crazy. Like I mean, I got let go by the Rockies right after the All-Star break. So I've been home for a while now. And like, there's been times where like I'd wake up 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning sweating and like thinking about like striking out with the bases loaded or like, so like it
Yeah.
never goes
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And if you have those little tools that work for you, like what I just talked about isn't going to work for Raf or yourself. Like you have to like, and it took me like a year or two to like come up with like, and it's what one phrase might work for one game, it might not
Sure.
resonate with the next day. So it's like a
100%.
constant, like you have to adapt that as well to, you know, figure out what clicks with your like inner thoughts to where you can, you know, stay as calm as you can.
Yeah, 100%.
In high school and junior college, I actually would have Jolly Ranchers, like a bag of Jolly Ranchers, and that was like my way of coping with that negative thoughts. Because like I'd literally just put a Jolly Rancher in, rub my batting gloves, and throw the Jolly Rancher away. And then the umpire's like, "Why is there so many fucking Jolly Ranchers over here?"
That's funny. I played with a few guys that would like chew, like a few pitchers that would like chew gum when they're in the dugout.
Yeah.
And then like when they go out to the mound to get ready to start, like after their warm up pitches, they'll throw it behind the mound.
Oh,
And,
really?
like that was like their way of like
That's super interesting.
locking in. So it's like I think it's great to hear like what everybody like does to
Like different
kinda-
tactics,
yeah,
strategies
I
that
think
deal with
it's-
their own, because everyone's different,
It's
right?
interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what one person's going to be really good at just saying a phrase over and over again, and another person's going to be
Mine
like
was
just
just
doing
survival
something
at
physical.
all times.
Yeah.
Just survive.
Yours is just survival.
All I thought, survive. This could be the right pitch, could be the wrong one.
Man, this has been an awesome conversation, Matt. Like,
Yeah, it's been great.
yeah, like there's a lot of tactics and strategies in there for like young ball players, and then obviously just getting like an inner scoop on like professional baseball, because like a lot of people don't hear about it. Like they hear stories, but they don't get it here from like the horse's mouth, you know.
Right.
So like I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
In this podcast, at the very end, it's called the closing pitch, because at the end everyone delivers their own closing pitch on the conversation, kind of just final thoughts. And everything like that. So Dave's going to start it off. Ralph, you can go second. If you want to go third, and I'll close it out.
All right.
Yeah, there were just so many takeaways, man. I mean, from inviting in failure to the mental side. So just go back and listen to this like 3 times, because there's so many good tidbits. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I have so much to add. As it's just, you know, I've known Matt now 3-4 years, and I know we both helped each other a lot, like in the off season. And so what I think is really cool is guys, find a teammate, find a player, find someone like you that you can work out with, you can train, you can hit with. It doesn't matter who it is, and regardless of if you're a higher level, lower level, like just find somebody who you can relate to, talk through things. Because I know we would always kind of throw ideas off each other when we worked out. Like, do you deal with this? Do you deal with this? Like, how do you deal with being in AAA? Like, things like that. Or how do you deal with being an everyday big leaguer? So whatever it may be. It could be high school, or how do you deal with this subject, whatever it is. Find someone you can work with mentally, physically, and just develop yourself. And I think that's kind of my advice on this closing pitch.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I think, you know, to add to your point, I think it's great to, you know, find somebody that you can relate to. That, you know, a true friend that's not going to judge you for, you know, wanting to have a difficult conversation. As an athlete, I think it's huge to feel like you're not going through like a difficult time alone. So my advice, you know, for any athletes out there, young, older, whatever it may be, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you need help, if you want help, in whatever it may be that you're dealing with, don't be afraid to ask for help. It does not mean that you're weak.
Yeah. The show here, I think, had some great dynamite drop-ins by Rafi, so I appreciate those.
Always.
I love it. But the biggest takeaway is like it's the same thing, like the mental side. Like not many people talk about it, and then when they do talk about it, it's like hoopla. Like it's not really like hardcore pterodactyl like practical advice. It's just like, oh, just this is how you handle it. You just write it in a notebook, and then you say these few things, and then that's about it. But they don't talk about the actual failure. So I really appreciate that. And it kind of like tapped into like my career. I was like, holy cow, I dealt with the same stuff. And then you're just at a bigger stage. So I really appreciate that. Guys, that's this episode of The Closing Pitch. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks.